There are many stories of chivalry, where the heroic knight saves the damsel in distress. This is not one of them.
Hi viewer, in this video we're gonna talk about the movie Damsel 2024. We will discuss the movie story, summarize the plot, and explore the cast and characters. Additionally, we'll cover the movie production details and box office performance. Finally, we'll provide a movie review and share some personal reactions. Let's begin with the movie review and story. I really expected Dempsey's to be all bad. I don't think its trailer did it many favors, and I have not seen any good review for it since it came out. Honestly, I think it's managed to fly under the radar of the most part, which surprises me since it had Millie Bobby Brown superheading it. So once I settled it to watch it, I was prepared for a bad film, and I was surprised to find it was not a bad film. I wouldn't call it a good film. The villains were a bit too cartoonish for me. The plot was a little predictable. The politics were muddled for sure, but it was not all bad. The action was decent. Personally, I don't care if the CGI wasn't great. It didn't break my immersion. I understand that the film was going for something. For me, I think it was interesting, which is one of the highest compliments I can give. The basic premise of the film is the daughter of the Lord Elodie is chosen to marry a rich prince, which she agrees to do since her home is barren and broke. They go to the rich kingdom, she marries the prince, and he throws her to the dragon, who believes she is their princess by blood and it is determined to kill her. Elodie tries to escape, discover matches from past lady sacrifice, and eventually fights the dragon to save her sister. It's a whole thing. For background, the dragon is appeased very generation by three daughters whom she murdered in the revenge for the death of her own three daughters. The big twist of the film is that the past king came unprovoked and murdered her children, and it was in fact not revenge for the dragon revenging their kingdom. So Eridu reveals the kingdom's trick for mixing her blood with theirs to convince the dragon she is royal when she is not. She ultimately defeats the dragon by being clever. Of course, at what traditionally happen in these films in which we are trying to estimate femininity, it is her empathy that is ultimately supposed to differentiate her. After defeating the dragon, she chooses to save her rather than kill her. Together, they go back to their kingdom to quality literally burn everything down. The dragon burns everyone in the court alive and then follows her back to her homeland. When I described this to my friend, he said, "Oh, well, I guess empathy can only go so far." This is true, and it goes back to the heart of why this film feels follow. Why Damsel misses the mark. When I say the politics are muddled, I mean that this film is trying to be something it's not, and it's not able to really examine the issue to brings up. A prime example of this is the Queen. She is clearly written to be straight up villain with no empathy of her own. It characteristic of women who are only about their own power rather than the well-being of women collectively. Women's worst oppressors have always been women who align themselves with the patriarchy in a misguided attempts to strengthen themselves. But the Queen just came out of a little cartoonish, a little too lacking in depth. We don't see the desire to save her kingdom from the dragon or even a desire to hold on to power of power's sake. She just sacrifices ladies to appease the dragon with no time given to why she is too ruthless about it. You can gather from plot clues that she is saving her own life as a royal daughter, but I could be seeing something the film didn't intend. The movie thinks it's about the pain and power of women. The dragon loses her daughter at the hand of men. Countless ladies are thrown to their death, making the ultimate sacrifice for the betterment of the others. It is Olive's connection to the past ladies and their shared collective knowledge that helps her Elodie survive using her wits, her strength, and her empathy. It also seems to think it's responding to past fairy tales, a spin on the classic story we know where the prince saves the damsel. When it's the version, he is actually the one who throws her to her death. However, on both fronts, it doesn't quite work. Elodie's character. Elodie is quite simply not the kind of character. She chops firewood for the purple. She creates maze for fun. Ultimately, she relies on herself and takes care of her family and her people. We're not talking about a damsel in distress character who has to learn how to take care of herself, who was constantly relying on others to get through life, who was overwhelmed by the glitz and glamour of the kingdom. The film wants both ideas to exit when in fact the Elodie at the beginning of the film is exactly the type of character you would expect to survive the dragon. It is her empathy toward the dragon at the end that feels more uncharacteristic than her stink in the cave. I think this is because of empathy is more about them both being wrong than it is about empathy. If you think about it that way, the film tracks better. Her sister's character makes more sense of this type of plot than hers does. Attitude doesn't really change throughout the course of the film. She's the same person but with shorter hair and a dragon sidekick. The movies want to pretend there's a character development where there is none. It's quite possible that I am giving this movie too far much credit finding things worth discussing in the clumsy plot. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that I can see what the film was interested in. I can see what is what trying to examine and say. I just don't think it was executed very well. In my opinion, Damsel is worth watching. Honestly, I genuinely enjoyed it. I just don't think it did what it thought was doing. A medieval word with a highly specific but then misused meaning themselves describe a young unmarried lady in waiting. It's also the word that given many a hopeless heroine in Hollywood movies. The proverbial damsel is distressed, treasures to the train track or otherwise waiting to be saved. Elodie is neither of those in Netflix pleasant distributive fantasy story which places Enola Holmes star Millie Bobby Brown secretly in control of her fate. A revisionist fairy tale in which Elodie is hastily married off and served up as dragon co to satisfy generation old gods. Damsel treats Elodie as an action hero for our class gender timid times. The loud and clear message achieved by eliminating distress from the title through is still an essential part of the formula. Passive damsel be demand here's a woman who can tend for herself. The eldest daughter of one Lord Beaufort, played by Ray Winstone Kentley, patriarch of a cash-strapped land, Elodie first appears with her hair and makeup neatly in place. She is ready to pose for a loyal portrait. If she cared about such things, she is more inclined to bow hunting and horseback riding. By the end of the tale, she is cheered and scared, her dress dirty and torn to scary, having endured a die-hard living gentlest of gender. Technically, Elodie has survived much worse as tough guy Bruce Willis didn't have to contend with a fire-breathing reptile like John Rambo. She can see her new vice. Elodie isn't so much a damsel as she is maiden. She is hardly the first who can get without being seduced by a man. Rather, she is the latest and arguably the most resourceful in the cycle and began with Damsel Frozen a few years back. Now, after Hollows the Princess and Netflix on a Nimona Helmet, Joan Carlos Fresnolos Damsels demonstrate how a gender that young people have enjoyed for a century needed to be exclusively centered on boys. In Dan Mazzano's script, even the antagonist are woman, Robin Wright, whose distractly Queen Isabella serves the precious buttercup she played in The Princess Bride, and Corey Agracio, whose smoky voice seems as idea fit for the fire-breathing dragon. There's another obvious advantage to giving their foursome CG courage the power of speech. Doing so explain how the dragon established the pack with the long ago king Marslake that is called for so many royal sacrifice. But it's also mean that clever Elodie can reason with the beast. One doesn't necessarily need brute strength to save or save a dragon. It is analytic open strange the movie sets up the usual kind of romantic wish fulfillment. Sure, this is a arranged marriage, but the price Nick Robinson is charming enough and the wedding dress looks just dreamy. Still something is clearly off in the kingdom of Oria, and just before the wedding, Elodie's stepmother Angela Bassett starts to worry with good reason. The night of the ceremony, Elodie is carried up the mountain behind the castle and talks down a large duck chasm. At the bottom, she finds abandoned shoe and broken tires, evidence of her actual fate. How many brides have been offered to the dragon through the ages? In one of the movie's effective scene, Elodie finds the spot the dragons can't reach, and there she discovers a wall where a dozen or so precious princes wrote their all names. They also left a map sharing what they have learned with future victims. It's an inspired show of solidarity in this 15th update on the Bluebeard folktale. which personally makes literal by having the camera pan around the cave to reveal the wives who came before. So many Netflix offerings look barely polished enough of the small screen, but every so often, one arrives with all-star cast, lavish production values, and the kind of creative oversight by veteran producers who come up through the studio system, committed to making movies so opposed to content. Damsel belongs to that old-fashioned traditions, even if its message feels totally contemporary. For this part, Fresh Nadalo immerses audience in LED pre-decimates through a balance of practical and digital effects, including great jets of fire that sings at our heels but never quite catch up. What matters most is whether we believe Brian in the whole rule, and the Stranger Things star has no trouble embodying the kind of quick thinking, independent mind it takes to survive such an adventure. The movie doesn't reveal too much of her personality before that first twist. The Elodie is shown drawing maze in her spare time, a skill that comes in handy when trying to navigate these Connie like caverns. Her only tools are a brass dagger stitches into her body and a filigree orb that serves as a lamp. If Margaret could make do with that, so can she. In classic tale, damsels spends their time learning to be ladies. Elodie bypass all of that, using her intelligence to uncover the secret explanation of these horrific sacrifices, which could be read as centuries for what they don't tell you, patriarchal control. Deliciously improper at times, Damsel adheres to course that can feel a bit calculated, less organic than crafted in response to a newly progressive corporate agenda that signs are there are all levels, but inclusive casting to occasionally self-righteous dialogue. But role models like Elodie remain all too rare. And if the movie changes the way young women say the word damsel going forward, no longer gently but with a growl, then it moves the detail. There are many stories of chivalry where the heroic knight saves the damsel in distress. This is not one of them. That is how Millie Bobby Brown's Samtia's new fantasy film begins. So we know from the start that there will be damsel, she will be in distress and she will have to get herself out of it. After a brief paralogue with knights facing a fire-breathing dragon, we see Elodie chopping wood centuries later in a faraway land. She and her adored younger sister Flora, a sweet Brocky Carter, lives in remote, snowy community that is in dire circumstance. They are down to selling the drops in their castle for food, but then a messenger arrives with a letter closed with a royal seal. A queen is proposing that Elodie becomes the bride of her son, the prince, with a handsome dowry that will restore their lands to prosperity. Elodie is reluctant but willing to do whatever is necessary to help her people. I know you always wanted to travel. Her father, our Lord Beaufort, says, trying to make the prospect sound more appealing. Elodie and Floria are dazzled by the warmth, bounty, and luxuries of the Queen's home and heartened by their welcome. Prince Henry, played by Nick Robinson, seems to be as charming as fairy tale princes are expected to be. His mother, Robin Wright, as Isabella, is another story regal but remote, coolly rebuffing the attempts at friendship with already stepmother Lady Beaufort and underused Angela Bassett. Despite Lady Beaufort increasing concern that something is wrong, the wedding goes through with all the pomps and circumstance a fancy royal wedding deserves. The production, designed by Patrick Tatopoulos and costumed by Amanda Monk, are gorgeous throughout. The wedding scene is spectacular. Pay attention to the moments when we see Elodie being helped into her spectral bridal gown. It is not the usual tomboy to beauty makeover moment, and its significance will be revealed later. After the wedding, there is a strange ceremony near the mouth of a caravan. Ominally, the courtiers are mocked. Isabella runs her dagger across the newlyweds' palms and mixes their blood, and then it turns out Elodie is to be sacrificed to the dragon inside the caravan, a part of the centuries old arrangement that keeps the dragon from preying on the kingdom. And so, switch from Cinderella to Die Hard in a cave as Ollie tries to escape from the dragon again. Exceptionally well designed and voiced with a constantly smoky My Name's by Sarish and Garshlow. Remember that dress? It might at will has been designed by James Bianchi has already mocked it into a survival kit, taking out what my Hollywood design daughter tells me in the chorus bus, the stick board stuck down the body, scraping it against the caravan wall to sharpen it into a dagger. She also uses some of the fabric as protection and rips off a lot of it to give her more freedom of movement, always resulting in very fetching letters. Elodie also found some resources in the cave along with a few dead bodies of other princes. There is a whole wall covered with their names written as they despair of escapes. She discovered bioluminescent worm to help light her way. This section of the film plays like a video game with Elodie facing one obstacle after another, making some progress but not enough. Brown is on her own for a long stretch and she is effective at alternating fear and determination. There are some scary surprises, especially after other characters arrive in the cavern. It's too bad this is not on a big screen because the settings are filled with indecisive details that bluster some of the weakness of the screenplay even on the smaller screen. Through the fresh female led take on the tradition tale, including a bit of sisterhood, is powerful twist near the end makes it worth a watch. Sora Agdashlo is the Alan Rickman of female vices. It's hypnotic and assessment, so it's no surprise that she is the perfect choice for the dragon. Yes, each time she speaks, you will be fearful. However, you will also wonder why everyone puts up a fight. Speaking of which, the design of the dragon is incredible. It's clearly CGI, but because of the design, you won't mind so much. Buttercup is all grown up and on the dark side. I know people who watched House of Cards know that Robin Wright is so stronger to the questionable side of mortality. However, seeing her return to the gender that made her an icon, her talent is seen when she goes toy to toy with Angela Bassett. The character of Elodie Millie Bobby Brown does an incredible job with the what the script and story gives her to work with that there is no questioning her acting ability. However, the problem is that the character is not given much to do outside of hiding, screaming, and crying. Even the things that they do give her appear only as and when the plot calls of it. For example, towards the end of the film, already is shown to be in creative job despite plenty of opportunity to show this is the opening act. The film doesn't see these initial seeds. The massive plot whole of the gods being of royal descent and the presence of marriage. The big problem being that this is all hanging on the fact that the dragons they have been sacrificed to has great fucking smell. Or rather, she doesn't. If the film trying to say there's some transportation that takes place during the marriage that makes Elodie's blood royal, or this is that so they're technically not relying what they make their offering. Is it really just a palming off of the secret of blood that convinces the dragon, even long after Elodie is played from the other wound that would clearly be her own? That dragon is not that stupid, that's now how blood works, and surely Bird's going to get around that they are holding multiple weddings. Get to the talk sooner, have the dragon walk the fuck up and realizes she is being candid with the have the third act be them working together instead of what becomes a quick wrap up. Excellent cast but a garbage script, it's worth a watch, but even not by making anyone a regular viewing cycle. Movie ending explain. Netflix new fantasy movie Damsel sees Molly Bobby Brown stepping into a new type of role, and the ending of the film proves that she is a hero, not a damsel, as she takes her power back. Damsel open with Elodie reluctantly agreeing to marry a prince from a foreign kingdom, a necessary sacrifice if she hopes to save her people. Later, does she knows that Prince Henry and her mother have a tribal plan in store for her, which their own people inhabited to a dragon whose babies they slaved Elodie's new family lizard innocent young women to their kingdom to offer them to the dragon during their wedding ceremony. Elodie is the latest in a line of young women thrown to the dragon, a creature who doesn't realize she is being deceived. Unlike the women before her, Elodie finds her way out of the dragon's cave, but Queen Isabella sacrificing her little sister Floria to the beast ensure she finds her way back. When Elodie returns to the cave, she bravely takes onto the dragon. However, she eventually finds a way to make peace with the creature and show her the truth, resulting in a happy ending for both of them in the damsel. Despite the odds being stacked against her, Princess Elodie survives her plight in damsel and she managed to come out of the situation better off than worse she started. Brownie's character convinced the dragon that she is not her enemy, refusing to kill the creature when she has the chance. The two team up and take their revenge on Queen Isabel, Prince Henry, and all their companions. Elodie returns and traps Prince Henry's wedding to the third girl who intended to sacrifice. Elodie tells her to get her people and run before offering the royals the same opportunity. When they refuse calmly, they have no reason to fear Elodie. She tells them, "It's not me who you should fear." She reveals that she has the dragon with her as an ally instead of an enemy. This is a shock to Queen Isabel and Prince Henry, both of whom presumably die when the dragon releases her rage upon the castle. While Henry seems eager to be finished with the dragon business, the queen shows little remorse for her action. Both get there just deserted when the dragon burns down the castle with them inside, finally collecting the payment she was unknowingly robbed of. Princess Elodie allying with the dragon makes a turning point in damsel, and there's a good reason the dragon decides to help the young woman. The dragon only kills Princess because she believes they come from the kingdom above her and she views it as a payment for what happened to her children. Reality shows her the Queen Isabel cuts her victim hands and mixes their blood, deceiving the dragon into thinking what she is sacrificing her own people. Since the dragon realizes she's been killing innocent young women wronged by some royal, she decided to team up with Olity rather than kill her. It helps that already shows our mercy, strengthening the bond between the two characters, and given that they both lose people they love to King Roderick and Queen Isabel's crowd plans. Elodie father and the dragon's children, they have a quite a lot in common, and it turns out the dragon isn't the villain in themselves, she is a victim just like Elodie, and both are able to reclaim their power during the film's final moment. The theme is at the heart of Netflix's new fantasy movie and it plays into both Elodie and the Dragon conclusion. Following the dragon destruction, Princess Elodie and her people are briefly shown on a ship sailing home, although Elodie's father dies trying to save her from the dragon. Lady before survive her encounter with Queen Isabel's men, she returns home with Elodie and Floria, and the three women discuss their plan to lead the kingdom themselves before boarding the vessel. In this way, Damsel drives home a feminist message that none of these women need a prince or lord to decide their fates and that they are better off taking them into their own hands. Princess Elodie also revealed that they have enough supplies to see their people through the winter, a change from the beginning of the film. It seems that Elodie take advantage of King Roderick and Queen Isabel's stores, as it's not clear where else she would get wealth and supplies from. Either way, she won't need to marry in order to keep her people warm and fed, and neither will Floria. The trio gets an optimistic ending in the Netflix temple, even if leave their fates somewhat open-ended. They are not quite as open-ended as another character through. As Elodie and her people are sailing back to their home kingdom, the dragon is shown flying next to them, and it's not entirely clear what's next for her. She claims earlier in the movie that she is the last of her kind, so it's possible that she'll attempt to find other dragon out in the world. However, the fact that she and Elodie lock eyes and that the dragon continues to fly near her ship suggests she may be accompanying Elodie's people on their journey. After all, if the dragon has no family of her own, it's possible she'll make a home of Elodie's kingdom with the two becoming close allies. While the dragon fates remain ambitious at the end of Damsel, she does seems to be in a better place than where she started. There's anyway way her storyline mirrors that of Elodie. She is wouldn't be surprising if these characters stuck together going forward. Sadly, Damsel's conclusion doesn't have much else on the table, so it's unlikely viewer will get answered in a sequel film that's same as the Damsel's ending happens rather quickly and there's a room to expand on Brown's character and the fantasy lore established in the first installment. Taking age old expectations of how a fairy tale is supposed to play out and giving them a brisk shuffle, is by no means as fresh as some filmmakers often like to think. A pending clashes with a tired wink and a smug smirk, but Netflix themselves itself loosely similar to the Hollows 2022, offering the princess doesn't require our astronomers at its wheel reinvention to pass the bar and is far too sprightly to get overly bogged down in the self-restriction for such an endeavor. There are in fact very few surprises in store here. Perhaps Fastex's written Mia's script could have benefited from a few, but there's a simple mechanical restriction to watching an underdog fighter way back from the depth driven by a familiar kind of revenge. For LOD, Netflix in-house leading Lady Millie Bobby Brown, her journey starts in a different kind of strike. Her family, led by father Ray Winstone and stepmother Angela Bassett, are struggling, and so her pupil. In need of a miracle to save them, it magically arrives as an offer of marriage. A handsome prince from a faraway kingdom, Nick Robinson, was to make her his wife. Steered by a strong-willed Queen Robin Wright, by her happy ending in effect an unhappy beginning, the wedding part of an ancient ritual that sees her hauled into a cave, sacrificed to a dragon, remains curdled into horror as Elodie must scramble back to the safety. It's a twentieth on a classic Left for Dead revenge tales, and it is a subgenre that has been done to execution. Watching a young woman endure this same physical, crawling rise to action hero stages that feel at least superficially fresher. In comparison to another bright find out wedding is surprise thrill, it's far more effective than 219's Ready or Not, a film far too pleased with itself to care if we are entertained. In the hands of John Carlos Fresnado, a Spanish genre director who has been absent from Hollywood for a good while, the reaction to his 211 Clive Owen horror intruder has bad enough to keep this way. Damsel is an involvement adventure of low-level prayer as we watch Elodie discover the importance of her own resourcefulness and an independent drive over the love of a prince. It's a gently feminist spin with the queen also leading the kingdom, Elodie's stepmother taking control of the family, and even a female dragon ruling the cave. It's allowed for three older female actors to take time and space in a film of this scale, gifting us with an effectively icy to type yet underused ride in need of some more precious one-liner and wonderfully sinister voice work from Oxford nominee Shoera Agdashlo. Like many child actors, Bronnie can be a little over empathetic in her line delivery and emotional reaction, something that just about worked in the Enola Holmes movies, but something that can feel a little too self-aware and artificial at times. With short of preciousness that impressive in the younger years, yet less so with age. A film like Damsel doesn't exactly require a performance that grounded or griffy, but it's only when the role rises on her to flip from word to action that she comes into her own. While some of the wider landscapes can feel a little AI blasted, Damsel avoids a lot of, if not at all, if the visual tells that she can remind and we're watching a Netflix mookbuster rather than a Lear blockbuster. The word is impressive if a title unstabbed, the dragon moves with more flair and ease than CGI monster in these films often do. And while the darkness of the cave setting can get a little monotonous along with some of the story beats near the end, it's mercifully valid. If Damsel doesn't exactly rewrite the storybook, it makes for a complete rework of it, or reusing revenge saga that provides a thin yet conjuring message for its younger female audience and a bomb of those older viewers who grow up being spoon-fed the same old gender clutches. This time there's some salt to go with the sugar. Damsel, the new Netflix movie with Stranger Things star Millie Bobby Brown, is part of the very new strain of feminist film that wish to dissemble the stereotype associated with fantasy films such as these. Its supervised claim that it is not a story where a white knight rescues a damsel in distress are made clear from the start. Yet it is all the time honored elements an evil queen, a knave, younger sister, semi unquestioning parents, and a parent under his mother's thumb Oh, there's also a talking dragon, and we'll get to that, but alas, this 101 minutes entirety self-furious tale, there is not a bone of Homer in Damsel, has little to say and even lots to show. I kept watching for the film to take it to a shore and what is promised and now wow with this section, but that moment never arrived. Never really knows their gang. The first incredulation, if that comes 35 minutes in, having built up that lore and gone through the necessary bits of Paramise, Damsel suggests it's ready to throw you into the thick of things, like get on with the monster bit. Oh yeah, did I mention the dragon has the gallery voice of Sora is Godlow? I am sold. Crashlow should voice to very dragon henchpot, but sadly the Netflix films it a little stop start. Turns out it is not actually done with the backstory. There's more. What you end up with is more of the survival exploration thing that might sound fine, but in the execution it means damsel discards the momentum it's built for itself like more than once. What I am trying to say is that film is instructor John Carlos France Dillo 28 weeks later never really know what they are doing. It doesn't help that a bulk of Damsel is an inside cave. Those scenes were no doubt shot primarily on the soundstage. It was also filmed partly in Portugal, but I imagine that was far on an exterior scene. As a result, most of it looks crap. On top of that, there's a very little actual action in the new fictional movie. Brown is mostly running from Agdashlow's dragon, even what it does open up. I was always left thinking that the set pieces made the dragon look stupid. Damsel get worse than Logan it does with the film going around in circle at one point quite literally, and as it wraps it gives into grandstanding dialogues. The screenplay is by Dan Mezua, Fast X and Endure for meaningless attempt at symbolism. Elodie Beaufort, Millie Bobby Brown, lives with her younger sister Floria, her father Lord Beaufort, played by Raven Stone, and her stepmother Lady Beaufort, Angela Bassett, far up north in a harsh and barren land where resources are scarce and the people are close to civilization. Lord Beaufort believes they won't make it to spring. Thankfully, she had made a match with the kingdom of Oria. Alize says she has never heard of the kingdom before, which neither reflect on her education or in made to be the first sign that something is amiss. After all, the match will benefit Beaufort gently, but it's unclear what it's for the kingdom given the potential upside. The junior will effectively save their people, the family of four setups of an Oria at once. While the north is struggling, the island kingdom has well manicured garden and fruit in abundance. Right off the bat, through there are ominous signs. Well, Henry, Nick Robinson seems sweet and gently interested in Ellie, if a little aloft. Queen Isabel Robin Wright is cool and slant towards Lady Beaufort, reminding of her father's slowly stature and plainly starting the boundaries of their new familiar arrangement. Stayed by the riches and the home in mind, Ailey brushes off the concern and accepts her new role as Princess of Auria, but you know where that is going right. Right after the wedding, she is taken up to the mountain and told of the island's past since it's involved a dragon. It minutes Ellie goes after being a princess to a sacrificial lamb. In Damsel, it's Brown vs. Nobody. Given the nature of the story, Brown essentially carries Damsel on her shoulder. Weinstone, Bassett, and Wright are tremendous actors, but they are given precious little to do. Wright is stuck in the most one-note role of any actor in the Netflix film, while Weinstone and Bassett are offered a bit more range. They are missing for most of the runtime. After all, a majority of Damsel involved Brown as a CGI monster. There's no scene partner. I'm guessing Agdashlo was never on set and did her lines in a recording booth. The films give the dragon a lot of dialogue but is unable to flesh her out meaningfully despite spending 90 minutes in the cave. If anything, the dragon is made to look foolish as the film runs on. She makes decisions that suits Brown patronized and are not in keeping with her own behavior as a devouring, fire-breathing monster. These disappointing traits also stick out at the end of the film. What does Damsel is that is entirely predictable in the final third as the film unravels in front of your eyes. You are left to reflect on the wasted talking dragon and the royal mess that it is. Since Brown broke out with Stranger Things, Netflix had done its utmost to stay involved with its prized homegrown star. That has resulted into Enola Holmes movie with the third in development, the upcoming sci-fi adventure The Electric State from the Roche brothers and Damsel. At this point, it seems that Netflix will say yes to anything with Millie Bobby Brown in it. But if Brown truly has Carter Blanchard Netflix and want to star in a medieval or fantasy film, she might have done well to conflict with Wright, who famous played as damsel in distress over 3 decades ago. A new already meta Princess Bride updated for the present day where the sick and child being read to a girl who demands that the princess to join is in on the fun. Now that's a damn tale I would like to watch. Millie Bobby Brown, heroine in Damsel, needs no saving from the knight in shining armor in this fairy tale with the twist she is doing. The rescuing and audience love it. The film has tops the streaming movies chart with the biggest week of viewing in 2 years. Netflix is bringing its own streaming record with the fantasy film that first premiered on March 8. In its first week, Damsel had the biggest week of viewership from a Netflix film since Glass Onion in 2021 with over 50 million views. More than 93 million hours viewed, the film also topped the streaming's top 10 list. In addition, Netflix has fans talking online on social. It is one of Netflix's most popular film ever with 1.3 billion impressions on Netflix social pages alone. In Damsel, Brown portrays a young woman who agrees to marry a handsome prince, and at first glances, her new life seems like picture perfect. She soon discovers that the royal family she is about to join has recreated her as a sacrifice to repair an ancient tapet thrown into a cave with a fire breathing dragon. She must rely on her wits and will to survive. She is a damsel forced to get herself out of the distress. Brown was so passionate about talking on this role that she is also an executive producer on the movie. She took a moment while filming her next project to answer why she wanted to star in the adventure film. I fell in love with the Denzel script when I read it 5 years ago. I have been so fortunate to be able to collaborate with Netflix all these years across multiple gender crossing projects as a girl and a young woman who has agency. I appreciate the loyal fans all over the world who continues to show up and have truly impacted my career in the most extraordinary way. I loved hearing how inspired you were by Elodie and encouraged everyone to harness their inner warrior and use it for good and pass it on. Fans and critics alike love director John Carlos Frantz take on the classic heroine story wherein the damsel is one saving herself, feminizing the world over are nodding their heads and applauding. Women, as we know, have long been saving themselves, perhaps not from fire breathing dragons, but we have learned to pull themselves up and out of their situation and watching LED do the same in the refreshing tale on the classic by Saves called Heroine Tale. Brownie's relationship with the streamer has also includes the hit stride Stranger Things, the fifth and final season is running soon, and the highly successful Enola Holmes films. In addition, she has another film entitled The Electric State, which has compared to a live action Wall-E coming to the platform. In her upcoming role, she portrays an orphan teenager. She sets out to travel across the American West in a mysterious, retro futuristic trying to find her lost brother. By traveling through the wasteland, her character encounters a robot and a drifter. She will star alongside Chris Pratt and Anthony Mackie for this one. With Damsel Brown had the opportunity to set into the Hood with the character Elodie, which has talked about there, portraying a damsel who saves herself was a stepping stone of the actress following performance as a younger character. When asked why he feels the film resonates so strongly with viewers, Franstero explains this because it's challenging our perception of the gender. As soon as I read the script, I knew I wanted to tell this fancy story that finally is challenging and revising all the traditional stereotypes of those fairy tales. It's a rebellion against the tradition princess role as empowering tale of self-reliance as an upcoming of age survival journey in which the only person coming to your rescue is yourself. I think these very real and human electrician of the story are resonating with the worldwide audience and attracting viewers from all ages and background. Franz Trillo also answered why he wanted to so badly to tell this particular story. Of course, a story like this is a fairy tale with a modern twist could only be told with a cast as powerful as the one we have. The allegiance of Robin Wright's Evil Queen, the conflicted prince portrayed by Nick Robinson, Ray Winston, tormented father of the bride, Angela Bassett's warm and caring stepmother, something never seen before. The family Millie talking as with her as a already journey and embracing the immense physical and emotional challenge for a role like this, showing to the world how competent she is an actress. This is definitely something that the audience wants to experience firsthand, and in themselves all of them shine in a unique way. Of note, seeing Wright in the role as deliciously evil queen as fun for viewers who know her as the original Princess Bride. Heroine like Elodie are teaching younger generation of women that they can save themselves, and the message is being heard loud and clear. We need not rely on a man or anyone or anything outside of ourselves or whoop in and save the world. We can do that for ourselves. Thank you so much. Damsel, the new dark fantasy film starring Millie Bobby Brown, is currently the number one film in the US on Netflix. Dragon is one of the best part of the film, so you might be curious to know who voices the dragon in Damsel and what other project they have been in. Directed by Oscar nomination filmmaker John Carlos, Franz Delo, Damsel stars Brown as already a princess from a poor kingdom who agrees to marry a much wealthier prince to help her people, but her wedding day turns dark when Elodie realizes her new royal family wants to sacrifice her to repay an ancient debt. So she is thrown into a cave with a fire breaking dragon. Rather than waiting for a knight in shining armor to save her, she must rely on her wit and skill to survive. Fresh Nardlo told Polygon that the stranger thing that was the only possible option for Damsel. Meili is in some kind of step in her life. She is kind of embracing her new time in her life, she explained. In some ways, we took advantage of what is happening with her career. He continues also in a very gorgeous way. Millie Bobby Brown, put that heart in the movie that was a perfect fit. That was a perfect match that we could see in the movie she is also giving to the character. That kind of personal experience she's been having in this year is the many movies she did. The Spanish filmmaker added that he wanted to relate an archetypical fantasy story of a modern audience. Reality is a new voice for these kind of stories, is a classic tale with the modern twist through the eyes of young women, he said. It's a new talk of new generations. And I am so happy that Meili, who represented the new generation of actresses, was willing to do it. Stars like Robin Wright, Angela Bassett, Ray Winston, Nick Robinson, and Brock Custer also appears in the anti-fairy tale film. But who voices the terrifying dragon in Damsel? Who is the voice of the Damsel? Iranian American actress Sora Angstdalsho voices the dragon in Damsel. Her most recent voice-over roles including Kung Fu Panda: The Dragon Knight 2023, Ghostbuster Afterlife 2021, Archer 2022, Arcane 2021, and The Lion Guard 2019. The 71-year-old actress has also starred herself in the film and TV shows. She recently appeared in Prime Video's TV series The Expanse as Christian Aversala in 2009. She won the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Supporting Actresses in a Limited Series or Movie for the HBO miniseries Out of Storm, becoming the first Iranian American woman to receive an Emmy Award. Akhtarso was also nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress in 2004 when she was cast opposite Ben Kingsley and Jennifer Connelly in The House of Sand and Fog 2003. In 2013, Akhtarso released her memoir The Lie of Love and Yellow Jasmine, which chronicled her childhood in the Shah's Iran to the red carpet of Hollywood. When revelations with Iran in 1978, the Ayatollah Khomeini religious regime brought shifting restriction on women in art. Sohra Enxato seized the moment and partly left her husband for Europe and eventually America, a vastly different culture. The book's description on Amazon read. Sora Agrashlo writes poignantly about her struggle as an outsider in a new culture, as a woman, a Muslim, and a Persian adaptation to a new land and a new language. She shares behind the scenes stories about how it's really like to be an actress in Hollywood. The actress suddenly responded to a fan who triggered her in a past and wrote that she loved Damsel. It was great to hear that you enjoyed Damsel. She replies on X, formerly Twitter. I'm excited to see what everyone will think of it. You can watch it on Netflix. Now let's quickly dive into the cast of the film movie. Millie Bobby Brown bio. Born February 19, 2004, Millie Bobby Brown, born in Marbella, Spain, is a British actor best known for portraying Eleven in the hit science fiction horror television series Stranger Things 2016, a role for which she was twice nominated for a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Supporting Actresses in a Drama Series. Brown was born in Marbella, Spain, and raised by her parents Kelly and Robert Brown. She was the third of four siblings. When Brown was just 4 years old, her family moved to Bournemouth, Dorset, England. Her family then moved to Orlando, Florida in 2011 when Brown was about 8 years old. Brown was born partially deaf in her left ear and later, after years of using tubes, lost all of her hearing in that year. She has spoken about her hearing loss, emphasizing that it has not affected her acting or singing abilities. While participating in a weekend acting workshop, Brown was discovered by a professional talent scout who told her parents that she had a natural talent for acting and might do well in Hollywood. Her parents ventured to Los Angeles with Brown to meet with talented agencies. Within a few months, Brown was offered her first professional role, a recurring part on the fancy television series Once Upon a Time in Wonderland. The show, a spin off the popular fantasy drama Once Upon a Time 2011 to 18, was based on Lewis Carroll's literary classics Alice's Adventure in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. Brown played the role of Alice's younger self on 2 episodes of the show's one-season run. Brown continued her career in television when she was cast in a starring role on the British paranormal drama series Intruders, which aired on BBC Two in 2014. The show centered around a secret society whose members seek immortality by possessing the bodies of others. Brown played a 9-year-old who became possessed by such intruder. Intruders ran for only one season, but Brown continues to find work in the television. She had a guest spot on the crime drama NCIS the same year. In 2015, Brown appeared in the feel-good sitcom Modern Family and the medical dramas Grey's Anatomy. In 2016, Brown was cast as the main role on the Netflix series Stranger Things. The role popularized Brown as an actor among mainstream audience, propelling her to stardom. On the show, Brown played the part of Eleven, a young girl with psychokinetic power who is experimented by the scientific who are trying to create a superhuman weapon. Stranger Things was a colossal hit for Netflix, with its fourth season becoming one of the most watched seasons in the streaming service history. Many viewers found Brown's incredible Eleven endearing and the character became a fan favorite and somewhat of the poster child of the series. Brown was nominated for an Emmy of Outstanding Supporting Actresses in Drama Series in both 2017 and 18 for her performance. With her career blasted by her success on Stranger Things, Brown made her film debut in 2019 blockbuster Godzilla King of the Monster. Brown portrayed Madison Russell, the daughter of the two leads, played by Vera Farmiga and Kyle Chandler. Brown reprised the part in the sequel Godzilla vs. Kong 2021. Brown started as the racial character in the Netflix movie Enola Homeless in 2020. The movie is an adaptation of the Enola Holmes mystery, a young adult novel series by the Nancy Springer. The film follows the story of a teenage detective, Enola Holmes, the younger sister of Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes. The movie centered around the Ilona Homeless exploring the mystery of her mother's disappearances. Brown returned in the sequel Enola Homeless 2 2022, in which her character, having opened her own detective agency, unraveled a conspiracy that has been spread across London. In 2021, Brown began dating Jacob Bon Jovi, whose father John Bon Jovi is the leader and frontman of the rock band Bon Jovi. In April 2023, Brown announced her engagement to him. Our next character is Nick Robinson. Born March 20, 1995, is an American actor. As a child, he appeared in a 2008 stage production of A Christmas Carol and Mame, after which he had a main role in the television sitcom Melissa and Joy 2010 to 2015. Robinson went on to play supporting role in adventure film Jurassic World and took on a lead role in the seven teen dramas including The Kings of Summer 2016, The Fifth Wave 2016, Everything 2017, Love and Simon 18. He has since started in the drama miniseries A Teacher 2020 and A Maid 2021. Early life. Robinson was born on March 20, 1995 in Seattle, Washington. He has four younger siblings. Robinson initially attended Sacred Heart Preparatory School but left in the middle of his freshman year and moved to Los Angeles after booking a singular role on Melissa and Joy. He graduated from Campbell Hall School in 2016. He was accepted to New York University College of Art and Science and attended in the summer to work on another season of Melissa and Joy. Robinson made his professional avid debut at the 11 with the role in the stage adaptation of the Charles Dickens novel A Christmas Novel. Damsel Review. There are many stories of chivalry where the heroic knight saves the damsel in distress. This is not one of them. Princess Elodie, played by Millie Bobby Brown, ensured the audience at the beginning of John Carlos Freshnel Dalo plotting dark fantasy damsel, although the script of screenwriter Dan Mescott clearly wants to be supervise everything about this sorry saga is both terrified and borrowed from much better film-made led films. It begins with Shomer met rival Tatium to save the cold and barren land ruled by her father, Lord Beaufort. Elodie hand in marriage is offered to a mysterious prince from the faraway land of Odia. We are right to be suspicious of the arrangement, and not just because the mountainous island kingdom is brought to life with incredibly cheap looking CGI as clocked by the wife, Landy Beaufort, Angela Bassett. The Lord demonorships after meeting with Odia's Queen Isabel, played by Robin Wright. Elodie may have no reason to distrust her brother, Prince Henry, played by Nick Robinson, but when royal subject in eyes wide shut style masks gather to watch the bride and groom mingle their blood in a post wedding ceremony, the audience will be waiting for the other shoe to drop. It does, and so does Elodie. Plugging into a convenience dragon's lair, a sacrificial offering to a beast who lived on the island long before humans did. In first 30 minutes of Damsel or a Drag, the cast plays everything as if there were a gritty, realistic drama. Robinson Wise in a particular is simultaneously too modern and too emo. Only Wright seems to know what kind of film she is in and is able to top into a deliciously Wangton vagueness. Once the film shifts gears to poor adventure, the pack picks up nicely through Frank Stillo, like many contemporary directors, doesn't seem to know how to properly film in darkened spaces. Some beautiful scenes illuminated by blue glow worms provide a saving grace. Sarah's Agdashlo is a real highlight as the voice of the dragon, pouring taunts to Elodie with a devious slit, if only the visual effect were of a similar quality. The CGI for her character somehow looks worse than the dragon in the nearly 20-year-old Reign of Fire. The section is also brought down by the Brown's performance, which transition from boring eloquence to a near endless cycle of screaming and grunting. She is further hampered by a Tori costuming choice as already makes her escapes using tools function from her Renoite beating curve. Her outfit grounds gradually more revealing. The slow peeling away of the ground's many layers feel thuggling obvious is already literally shattering the restrictive trapping of his Oxford royal family in particular and Vomonot in general. Yet, rather than achieving some sort of empowered symbolism, by the end of Damsel Browns look like she is doing Cut Kate Raquel Wellman 1 million year BC call play. As the truth behind the dragon's fury is revealed, it seems as if Damsel might have something interesting to say about the bloodthirsty means by which colonized maintained their control over Stolen Island. She was, after all, an Aurea first, but the theme is merely flirted with an ever fleshed out. The same goes for any aims at a feminism reworking of the many tales of Calvary. Allard is at his intro like attempts to devastate the caste by sacrificing princes from around the globe and as of many ethnicities to the dragon. It's all Rick's hollow lip service from a dull movie with nothing on its mind and even less of a story to tell. A weak script and boring performances make the Netflix fancy film Densive a real slog. Terrapudding it's attempting to be a supervising spin on classic adventure tales. Any sense of wonder or magic is diluted by cheap looking CGI and its overlay repetitive action sequences. This map will save herself and who will have audience from themselves. Millie Bobby Brown partnership with the Netflix continue with the release of the fantasy epic Damsel but Will Bobby's Brown Butt Kicking Princess return in Damsel 2 premiere on the platform on March 8, 2024. Damsel follow Princess Ollie Brown who agrees to marry the prince of a neighboring kingdom only to find she is to be used as collateral to pay off an ancient debt. Like Brown's other Netflix film series, Enola Homeless Damsel is all about reserving gender role in gender stories by featuring empowered female character. Throughout the critical reaction to Damsel has been somewhat mixed, the film still has the opportunity to shine, especially with the star power of Millie Bobby Brown crying in its more lackluster element. Furthermore, the film merely introduced the fascinating fantasy world, and a sequel is the most logical way to flesh out the kingdom and their lore. Brown is no longer stranger to making sequel to a Netflix movies, and Damsel is a sort of property that has nearly limitless potential for future exploration. Through Damsel 2 is not completely yet, it is far from an impossibilities. Shortly after the Millie Bobby Brown fantasy epic debuted, the latest updated sees Damsel land on Netflix 10 most watched list. Despite being only a few months old, Damsel is now the 8th most watched Netflix original film with over 137.2 million total viewed and 251.5 million hours viewed. Though this data doesn't guarantee a sequel is constantly improve the chance of a follow-up, with Brown becoming Netflix's biggest star, the Red brand might jump at the opportunity to jump at such a bona fide fight at. Unsurprisingly, Netflix has yet to make any moves regarding Damsel 2, and it might take a while before the pre-mid streaming bad makes a decision either way. Unlike more conventional films, which lay on box office numbers, streaming exclusive content succeeds or fails based on viewership number, and Netflix has method of judging whether a film is success or not. Critical reception is an important part of any movie, but bad reviews will not be enough to rank the project if enough fans tune in to watch. However, Damsel's streaming numbers have been massive and it has already cracked the top 10 times of most watched Netflix original movies. The intense success currently will not be lost on Netflix and it might inspire the streamer to push a sequel through as fast as possible. Unlike most fantasy properties, the cast of Damsel was somewhat small and the story was rather self-contained. Furthermore, the events of the film narrowed the character list even more by and there are only a handful of characters who come back if Damsel 2 were to ever happen. First and foremost, Millie Bobby Brown's Princess Elodie would need to return, especially since she is the regular damsel. Likewise, Elodie's younger sister Floria would need to return because of their close bond, meaning Brock Carter could uprise her role. The entire Timeless cast that could return in the Damsel 2. As director John Carlos Francescolo hinted, the world of Damsel is left completely open and there are timeless possibilities for a sequel. The ending of Damsel was a conclusive punctuation to the story contained within the film, but the open ended nature of the fantasy world means a sequel could go in any direction. Princess Elada's life after her brothel could be explored and it could shine more light on the kingdom she became from somewhere surely lacking in the first. Since the basic premise of the damsel puts a premium on Elodie's impedance, the sequel will not go for any traditional love story plot. However, the movie could distract age-old tropes by reversing the roles and putting a prince in jeopardy where Elodie must rescue him to win his affection. Like many fantasy stories, the possibilities of Damsel 2 are only limited by the imagination of the filmmakers. Despite receiving middle reviews, Millie Bobby Brown's new Netflix movie Dense has some amazing moments despite the main character's defiance, despair, and reunion with loved ones. Damsels is a rewriting the main character defines despair and reunion with the loved one. Damsel is a rewriting action movie in which young bride Elodie Brown is sacrificed by her in-laws to a bloodthirsty dragon voiced by Sore Egdarto, propelling the damsel into a brutal but straightforward mission to survive. Along the way, Elodie discovers centuries long controversy and finds that the real villain is not who she thought it was. The best scenes in themselves showcase Elodie realizes her character growth and her connection to the women who come before her. Themselves cast including Lawrence stars with a Robin Wright, Angela Bassett, and Ray Winstone who complement Brown's performance and elevate the movie. Overall, Damsel is an entertainment movie comprising its many effect moments. Damsel's opening line. Brown starts the star with a voice-over promising that there are more tradition heroic in this movie, saying there are many stories of Calvary where the heroic prince saves the damsel in distress. This is not one of them. It's an overused way to start a subverted fairy tale, most recently used just before the title drop of Nimona. This clutch is one of the reasons Damsel is getting low reviews. However, the opener is still a straightforward way to break the fairy tale mold, and if anyone can make it impactful, it's Netflix top classes. Robin Wright, I know she was a trouble line. Robin Wright played the inverse of the Princess Bride role in the damsel. Damsel's queen Isabel plan is for Elodie to marry her son and then sacrifice her. When the dragons wreak havoc on the kingdom, the queen has one thing to say: that damned girl, I knew she was trouble. It suggests a kind of connection between the two women where the queen knew that Elodie would be different despite no major instruction that imply this. It's somewhat convenient comment if it's Let's Write continue to magnificently even a fancy version of the House of Cards days. Elodie is dressed for her wedding. It's not the first time a movie has shown a extended sequence of a woman being dressed in a period attire with symbolic implications. However, this is one moment of damsel that recaps the benefits of the audience knowing that Elodie is headed for the Dragon's Den. It is infallible that all the details of Elodie's wedding dresses damsel are going to be tools that make the difference between like death and life. A bodice piece serves as knife. The sentences Pomater with ignite to become a latrine. The puffy slaves will be used to carry healing glow bomb. Elodie reunites with her stepmother. The consequence among reviewer and the damsel undergoes Angel Bassett. Still, it is a hard of Bassett not to be good in any given movie scene. Damsel frames Bassett character as a kind version of the stepmother archetype and has trouble connection with her eldest stepdaughter but cares about her deeply. While the relationship would have used more screen time, both actresses can portray the heart-beating emotion when they reunite after everything she has been through. Elodie only wants to be hugged by a loved one. Elodie drops her wedding ring and jumps chasm. Escaping the dragon for a moment of relative safely, Elodie has time to reflect. She makes a show of dropping her wedding ring into the chasm below before taking a running part of the hopping across it. It is a poignant moment that shows Elodie starting to hone her anger while the delicate movement of turning over her hand sharply contrasts with her running, jumping, and streaking seconds later. The writer don't have a lot to work with Brown being by herself for most of the movie. They don't create interesting moment of expression like this one. The glowworm's heals already. Elodie makes up to find herself covered in the glowworms she has been carrying around and discover that they has healed her bonds. If the writer wanted a moment of Elodie's actual speaking, they could have gone with a simply thank you instead of only tells the worms, I am deeply sorry for underestimating you. This is much more interesting as it mirrors Elodie and how the royal family never imagined that any woman could survive the dragon. It alludes to the bigger theme of a Lion Skies novel which don't quite make it into the movie. Floddy wrote the other women's names. In the safe spot in the network of caves, Elodie discovered that women who sacrificed before her cave covered their names across a cave wall. She is horrified by the end a dream of the other woman terrified in the cave, trending to gruesome injuries. However, over time, these women has collected the information to draw a map loading out of mountain. Even through all of the unexpected LED perished, they are connected by their fight of survival and what they did to help the other women before LED follows in Victoria's footsteps. She keeps her name on the wall too, even though LED is hoping to survive, and that will be remembered by more than her name on a wall. She leaves her name anyway, symbolically standing with the women who died. LED claimed the crystal tunnel. Ality makes what she believes in a brutal final essence, climbing a vertical crystalline tunnel a reachy safety. This scene is the epitome of how Damsel combines beautiful setting with Holidays' horrible trial. It is both triumphant at a moment of despair since Elodie reaches the top only to find the exit lead to a deadly drop. There is also another nod to the past victims since Elodie finds Victoria's crown at the bottom of the tunnel and used it as a tool to help her climb. It is overall a powerful and wet short scene. The first time the dragon speaks to Elodie. Egg Show Dazzle as the voice of the vengeful mother dragon. The Vengeance is horror movie game of cat and mouse with already damsel throws is another visually stunning moment with the cave briefly being illuminated by filming parts flying away from the dragon before the dragon speaks and demands Elodie's name. In her first scene, the dragon gives the impression of being much more intelligent than a beast with the simple goal of devouring the heroine. The scene serves as a preamble to Elodie discovering the dragon's sad backstory. Elodie crashes Henry's next wedding. In Damsel's ending, Elodie arrives in her tattered clothing at Penry next wedding to the next royal bride to be sacrificed. It is a near perfect moment with a sense of karma of the royal family's past crimes coming back to haunt them in the form of a vindictive Millie Bobby Brown. Sure enough, Elodie makes everyone present sorry and walk away proudly with a dragon at her back. The illicit drama of Elodie return the kingdom of Oria make it the best scene in Netflix Damsel. Damsel's streaming success proved that a sequel could happen, but Netflix would need to correct one of its frustrating mistakes regarding the first movie. There's one question that Millie Bobby Brown shared in her role as a Princess Elodie in the movie that twists traditional fairy tale tropes. However, Damsel as a whole had a mixed reception despite the exciting fantasy concept and Brown's star power. Something about the Netflix movie script felt flawed. Still, Damsel had Netflix top spot in the US in the weeks following its release, which seems to be make Damsel 2 possible. Damsel tells the story of a high-born lady who agreed to marry a wealthy peasant to save her kingdom. Their union turns her into a princess, but Elodie's fairy tale ending in courtship with her new husband Prince Henry, the true villain of Damsel, throws her into a dragon pit. No one is coming to save this damsel in distress, so she must fight to survive and score her revenge. Overall, Damsel has an excellent premise, however, the feminism focused script was painfully superficial, likely because its writer isn't a member of the community the movie seeks to represent. At its core, Damsel is a feminism-themed girl power story and is managed to somewhat satisfying ending with already reclaiming power by befriending the female dragon and and inheriting those who had abused her. Of course, she first had to draw strength from the countless young women who had died in the dragon pit before her. Damsel is a tale of women's strength and camaraderie, or at least is attempted to be. The problem is that these concepts were only explored at the surface. It was clear that the person holding the pen didn't have the first-hand experience that such a theme required. Damsel's script was written by Dan Mezuaga, who is known for his work on Fast X 2023 and Wrath of the Titan 2012. There's no question that Mosia has a talent for action, but with one of the more criticized aspects of Damsel being its script, it seems that Netflix went wrong here. Mezua and director John Carlos Fresnadalo attempted to layer the story with symbolism, like the many hidden features of Eludi's death, thus exploring the standard expectations placed on women. However, as men, they added nothing new to the conversation. Damsel is a fantasy movie that aims to turn classic tropes on their heads with its very title a play on the damsel in distress tropes. The movie pits Millie Bobby Brown's Princess Elodie front and center and makes her the hero of the whistling narrative that flips the script on Ever Dragon, Glorious Kingdom, and more. The movie was directed by John Carlos Fresnadillo 28 weeks later and written by Dan Mezua, Fast X Death of the Titan, their famous work. Damsel best moments are highlighted by a musical score by composer David Fleming. Fleming augmented traditional Austrasian sound with the medieval convex, a horn with the shape threateningly reminiscent of a dragon, and electric guitar with a range of vocal texture. Filming work can also be heard on The Last of Us television show, Dune Part 2 and Mr. and Mrs. Smith. David Fleming shares his approach to scoring Damsel and where he can find inspiration. David Fleming, so much of my approach to the film was directed by talking to the director James Carlos. When I got brought onto the film, they had tried something musically, but I was under the impression that because of its short of a supervision of the typical damsel in the distress story, they were properly going to want to sober what is musically too, and maybe do something ultra modern. But when I had my first meeting, John Carlos was like, "Listen, I just love the orchestra. I want something thematic and timeless." I think in a way it was a smart decision from him because you are probably to subvert everything, but you don't want it to be winky winky. You want the audience to invest in the director. What we did by having the music be much more grounded towards her. To be honest, so many scores and films nowadays are bounding over backward to subvert the gender in every way, but it become like a radical approach to go tradition and go fully thematic and orchestral. It's not quite fully, but it is the kind of fancy store I would have dreamed of going as a kid. It was amazing to be unleashed like that. I know Millie Bobby Brown is producer on this movie. Did she have any input on the music? Not directly that I know of, but her performance had all the note I needed. It's a pretty amazing performance when you think about it. It's basically fit half the film is cast away. It's her in the cave acting against a CGI dragon or creature. It's a pretty incredible. And the goal with the music was to stick with her. So it was nice to have such a strong performance to guide me. Devil filming is a huge and in a lot of ways ambitious. I did this back to back with Mr. and Mrs. Smith where the clothes the wear sort of informer. I the only kinds of song I wanted to choose like was with this. I think it was so lovingly short of classic in so many ways. Because of its fancy, there's no special real part metaphor. It's not like the England or Spain. I know the John Carlos draw from a lot of different culture. There's a nice thing about fancy. You don't have to be hold to any specific culture or worry that you are going to get in trouble by not being completely authentic. With the look of things in the cave, for instance, we stayed pretty auspicious, but I was trying to add in scent when the glowworm would come up because they have like the known characters to them. And towards the end, and she literally stripped up, investigate of being a princess and her feels fancy, and she was embarking on, and she is cutting her hair and everything. We inject electric guitar and electric cello into the sword because she had shot a fully subverted this idea of the fairy tale. It was nice to follow the change in her appearance, her costume, and her look. and let the music develop with her. She started the film as a child and thought the production design and costume they show her become a fully developed person and character by the end. It was great to be able to reflect that musically too. I want to talk about the canis a little bit. I know you had known about the instrument, but I am curious about how you landed on the use of it in score of this and how you go about composing for something you have not written before. David film. It's a hard instrument to technically write for because it's a very limited. If you were to put a sheet of music in front of someone who played cornex, it would be very difficult because it plays specific note that it's a built to play. There are no values or anything. It really in all controlled by the mouth. I knew I wanted to use it for the dragon. I knew wasn't going to be able to be a versatile or a thematic way, but I thought about using it in a shot of a sonic signifier for when the dragon is in its most feral and in attack mode. It's an ancient horn, and I wanted here to be something short of primeval about the dragon. Yes, it does have the tragic backstory, but it's also have the creature where we have no idea how many hundred of years old it is, and it should breed this kingdom and pre-humans. Even though the dragon sometimes has an austral setting for its theme, I wanted to have something that's way more edgier than a western ostrich. A laugh out of it was gathering sounds before had it with John Candy, who was the player, had a historian of these instruments and giving him the story and some idea with also seeing what the instruments itself is capable of. It's a pretty amazing thing if you look at it. It has its brusty head and where the sound comes out of it. I just felt like the right corner to have something beyond a thematic concept. It's a kind of sound where when you hear it's a blood calling. I wanted the dragon to have the intimate fear factor. I also really loved the use of vocals. I personally noticed them the most when Already was having little revelation as she was trying to survive. Can you talk about where you wanted them to come in and what you wanted them to mean? There are several different vocal character. I would say it is really a vocal fast chord. I really takes center stage quite a lot of time and there are different vocal character in different group that we recorded. We did a big tour for the big crowd moment which is incredible and powerful. Then there are two other important character. There's one which is called the Phantom Princess Score, which is the nine-piece women's score, but we recorded in all the same room, but short of barricaded off from each other. Usually with the core, the goal is let's make a homogeneous sound. Let's use all these voices to create one sound. With this Phantom Princess Joy, we wanted to feel like individual voice. We had each act in a certain ways, have a different vocal character, and really embody these spirits of princes from the past who were sacrificed using this ritual for the kingdom of Aurea. They are often used within this costly quality, sometimes as a warning and sometimes as a guide for LOD. That's very important. And third one is a solo vocal. To me, it represented two things. It mainly LOD, internet wise, and the things that she is afraid to face or knows deep that she needs to face. It's also, and this only matters to me, and I think Joan Carlos, the director, I had this idea. Her mother, whose dad is mentioned periodically, I had this idea that Elodie's theme, the main theme, which you can hear called Elodie's Maze, all comes from a lullaby that her mother sang her. So when you hear it by itself, it's her internal voice. It is her mother voice. It's something deep inside that she need to discover. That was sung by my wife Monica, who worked on the film in several capacities. We put to work on a singer as well. David filming details separating show from the gain or of the last. I'd love to ask about The Last of Us. I know that you have done a lot of additional music on the different project, and although you are credited as a full composer on the show, you are building on the work that Gustavo Santaolalla has made. How much are you concerned about watching the other composer voice in all these different settings? You mentioned doing additional music, which I think was great practice of that. I have composed lot of score with hands, and I think it's the short answer. It's really important for me to match, especially in the case where the musical identity was so well established and well loved. My job specifically had more to do with the set piece and learning heavily on action, tension, and horror. In some ways, it was separate, but my personal goal was it always felt like, even if its most chaotic and distinct cousin with Gustavo had one. I didn't want to be envious Hollywood action music. I really wanted to be feel like and grab all the same instruments from the same pile, and they went off and made something heartful and went off with made a musical panic attack with the same sources. I wanted to be very respectful of what we had done, and not just because the music is fantastic, but because I really admire him as a composer. I very much felt like I was happy to be welcomed into the sandbox and wanted to make something that stood next to him that didn't feel like it was clothing and felt sportive. At last, Millie Bobby Brown's fantasy movie Damsel is now one of the most Netflix popular films ever, directed by John Carlos Prince-Dello 28 weeks later. His work with a script written by Dan Mezua. His work is fast-paced. The fantasy film follows a dutiful damsel who agrees to marry a handsome prince as we take only for her new family to settle an age-old debt by casting her into a cave with a fire-breathing dragon. Brown leads the surprisingly star-studded damsel cast, which include acclaimed actors like Ravenstone, Angela Bassett, and Robin Wright. Now, 3 months after its release on March 8, Brown's fantasy film has entered Netflix top 10 list of most popular movies. As of June 2, Damsel is Netflix's 8th most popular film ever with 137.2 million total views and 251.5 million hours viewed. It passed Jennifer Lopez the Mother in ninth place with 136.4 million views and placed behind Robert Partridge We Can Be Heroes in seventh place with 137.3 million views. Third Damsel has already scalped it in the terms of hours views 231.2 million. Why Damsel has been such a huge hit on Netflix? First and foremost, the fantasy film has been such a huge hit on Netflix because of the Millie Bobby Brown star power and popularity. After becoming widely known as Eleven from Netflix culture phenomenon Stranger Things, Brown has become arguably the streaming service's biggest homegrown star. She stars in and produced two Enola Holmes movies for Netflix, which are also same for the streaming service most popular original film, placing just outside the top 10. Brown is largely the reason why the fantasy film has been so popular on Netflix, as indicating by the mixed Dempster reviews. The film has little else to offer, featuring a weak storyline and short special effect and largely writing of Brown's bold performance. Dempsey has a 57 score on Rotten Tomatoes for critics, which throw little fault for her own. In Brown's lowest range of the streamer audience, only enjoyed the movie slightly more, as indicated by its 60% score for that group, just above Rotten. However, with Denzel Brown has once again delivered strong viewership from Netflix, climbing the streamer list of more popular films all the way to 8. This is expected to continue with the upcoming release of Stranger Things Season 5 and The Electric State, a sci-fi adventure flick from the Roster brothers. Denzel's popularity has further committed Brown as bankable star of Netflix, where she is expected to be a key player of the foreseeable future. Now let's talk about the full cast and crew of the movie Damsel 2024. Millie Bobby Brown as Holiday, Ray Winstone as Lord Beaufort, Angela Bassett as Lady Beaufort, Brock Carter as Floria, Nick Robinson as Prince Henry, Robin Wright as Queen Isabel, Milo Twomey as King Roderick, Nicole Joseph as Princess Victoria, Patrick Nambana as Chamberlain, Oli Ackerman as Knight, Mansana Twinkly Knight, Ezra Farooq Khan Local Guard, Tasha Lim Prince Henry's Bride, Brogan McFerrin Princess, Sonia Nisa Princess, Easter Otmaid Princess, Margareta Rain Princess, Alois Shepard Taylor Princess, Matt Slade King, Manan Stalis Red Priestess, Estonia Carvero Bishop, Sora Agashlo Dragon, Marek J. peasant arguing over food, Ketan Majumdar noble, Robert Mockria gruff sailor, Carlos Salto uncredited, Sam Sharma knight, Edward Terry masked lord. The film is produced by Som Baden Powell as executive producer, Mark Bombeck as executive producer, Millie Bobby Brown as executive producer, Robert Brown as executive producer, Morgan Boschi, producer from Ireland Plates Unit, Irish Casualty producer, Jeff Crenshborn, producer PGA, Jonathan Lockron, producer Ireland Plates Unit, Dan Massoa, executive producer, Nick Page, line producer from Portugal, Joe Roth, producer PGA, Zach Roth, executive producer, Emily Wolf as an executive producer. Sound department: Roberto Alonso, sound mixer, Arnold Atonti, sound mix technician, Mark Appleby, ADR mixer, sound 24, Ben Parker, supervising sound editor, Robbie Brown, Foley editor, Andrew Kala, re-recording mixer, Lillian Kroc, audio producer, John Martin, ADR mixer, Gillian Daughters, ADR and dialogue supervisor, Mike Rawson, re-recording mixer, Zoe Fried, Foley artist, Danny Fremantle, sound design editor, Glenn Fremantle, supervising sound editor, Nick Fremantle, sound design editor, Glenn Gathard, Foley mixer, Rebecca Heathcote, Foley artist, Mark Hislop, sound design editor, Declan Litt, sound mix technician, Maya James, sound design editor, Sam Jackins, second assistant sound, Kennard Kelly, sound mix technician, Sophie Madden, audio producer, Robert Milan, sound design editor, Amy Marshall Clark, dialogue editor, Romy Martinez, ADR record list, Nick Mulvale, head of sound mix, facility sale, Michael Miller, ADR mixer, Ronnie Mukwawa, sound mix technician, Chris Navarro, ADR mixer, Paula Pavesi, Foley editor, Florence Bale, sound recordist, Sonny Robertson, second assistant sound, Robbie Scott, head of mix technician, Millionaire, Anaya Simoni, mix technician, John S.T. Danish, ADR mixer, Alex Stelno, ADR recordist, Mary Valentino, sound producer, Hollow Post production, Josh Robertson Ward, first assistant sound, Wild Whale sound mixer, Nicola Zonwardig, head of mix technician, Millionaire. Now let's talk about the animation department. Marhaz Abdullania as 3D visualization artist, James Berkeley animator, Kitnaya Dewar Bodikar animator, Davin Porzillo animator, Charlie Gotthard key animator, Will Corey animator one of us, Anthony Daniel animator, Chadrick LaForest Devon animator one of us and Cadrick D. LaForest Devon, Josh Leuticus lead animator, Zew Farnes animator, Sumaya Kowal animator, Jan Loki Crane senior animator, Syed Arif Hassan animator, Alina Heller animator, Tristan Lumakra animator, George Machingan animator, Brett Malgles animator, Agale Pretty animator, Mariam Regnaud animator, Jaffrey Zetoni animator, one of us. Music department, Artlo Archer additional score production, Nelan Nersiki score mix assistant remote control production, Anne Barnett librarian, Ruth Brisford musician English horn, Jack Boring composer additional music, Alison Burton studio manager Air Studio, Nacho Catlijo assistant orchestrator, Forrest Cretson additional score production, Rudy Chung executive in charge of music, Andy Crawley musician trumpet, Annie Mariam Kalam singer, Colby Donaldson additional engineering remote control productions, Geoff Foster recording engineer, Jessica Gibson, studio manager, Tim Gill, musician, cello, Matthew Giordano, musician, additional guitar, Jenny Gushak, Ostricha contractor, Asable Grift Limited, Gavin Greenway, Ostricha conductor, Peter Grayson, musician, Clifton Harrison, musician, Kennard Hughes, music editor, Jacob Johnston, additional engineering, Stephen Kofsky, music production service, London Wise, musician, Harry Mason, musician, Charlotte Matthews, studio manager, Jack Mills, score recordist, David Neroth, composer, Caverton Nelson, Ostricha, leader, Vicente Otres Gimino, additional Ostricher, Sithinia Park, assistants, Ben Pari, choir contractor, Satam Ringota, musician, percussion, Roga Potem, singer, Nancy Roxman, musician, Oscar Sanin, lead Ostricher, Monica Sonon, score supervisor, Jill Streeter, music library, Seth Wildman, score mixer, Richard Whitcan, musician, Rob Westwood, additional Ostricher, Matthew Wood, technical score engineer, Jade Chang, musician, Hans Zimmer, score producer, Cherish Britt, score editor, Rachel Bolt, musician, Paul John Chandler, music editor, Ben Creasy, assistant engineer, Grace Davidson, musician, vocalist, Bobby Gum, music supervisor, Rebecca Harden, assistant engineer, Diane Sarno, musician, Zaco Natalica, singer, Roger Winkley, musician, George Ladovan, assistant engineer, Steve Mayer, musician, Sarah McLaughlin, music executive, Leon Nicholson, music preparation, Philip Psycho, music editor, Steve Dowell, singer, Helen Bailey, musician, double bass uncredited.